I personally think you should turn up the volume for this one. Tonight, a damning new allegation about a top official at Trump's Department of Justice. The New York Times was first to report that a whistleblower said the following, quote, senior Justice Department official Emile Beauvais told subordinates he was willing to ignore court orders to fulfill the president's aggressive deportation campaign. And other top law enforcement officials showed themselves ready to stonewall judges' orders or flat out lie to get them their way. Emile Beauvais is also a Trump nominee to serve on a federal appeals court. Beauvais testifies before the Senate Judiciary Committee tomorrow. Carol Leonnig, David Jolly still with us. Carol, the whistleblower is a fired DOJ prosecutor. He says Beauvais told Department of Justice staff they would need to consider telling the courts F you. What in the world was going on here?
It's the most interesting story, and the second time in not very many months that a whistleblower has come forward to say that someone in the FBI or the Department of Justice has actively violated the rule of law. In this one, an attorney who's been a career prosecutor for 15 years said he was in a room with his supervisor and others, and with Emile Beauvais, then the acting deputy attorney general, who basically said, we're ignoring the court and we're going to use the F-bomb, tell them to F off. This was the day, by the way, March 14th, the day that Donald Trump came to the Department of Justice to talk about his goals and to explain how he was going to make sure that all of the people who had weaponized the Department of Justice, as he said, would be punished and removed, and that there were some really terrible people at the Department of Justice. He also made a really interesting remark that very few people noticed that day when he visited when he visited the Justice Department. He said, you're going to be hearing a lot about something I'm going to be doing about this dangerous gang, Tren de Aragua. And that's exactly what Stephen Miller, Donald Trump, and Emile Beauvais were all planning. And the next day, there was an emergency hearing, Steph, where a federal judge on a Saturday, Jeb Boasberg, was hearing from lawyers who wanted an emergency injunction to stop the government from flying their clients illegally out of the country from a tarmac in Texas to a prison in El Salvador that is notorious for its violence.
Am I reading this correctly, David? It sounds as though they're saying if the court rules in our favor, follow. If not, who cares what they say? The GOP that presents itself as the party of law and order. If how I'm assessing this is correct, how should we read this?
That Donald Trump walked into the Republican Party and decided we don't need to be the party of law and order. I mean, this is a president who this calendar year said he's not sure that he has to follow the Constitution, and he's not sure that due process applies to individuals. And due process is there to protect the innocent, as well as the procedures that ultimately surround those who are adjudicated guilty. But I think he also knows, Donald Trump knows, he learned from the latency of the courts in his first administration. Prosecutors moved too slowly. He got away with a lot, and so why shouldn't he get away with it now? And what he is doing, he's deploying it in an area, and this is why Emile Beauvais, it's like, fine, if the president says we don't have to follow the Constitution, why should I? But I think the darker themes of this is the attack on immigration is something that Donald Trump has always wanted to do. I mean, I think what we have continued to see is that under Donald Trump's leadership, Republicans are okay attacking communities, and then they go looking for crime. This is not about crime. This is about attacking immigrant communities, and then they go looking for crime. And to do that, the courts say, wait, you're not allowed to actually do that. You have to go find crime, not go attack communities. But Donald Trump says, I don't have to listen to you anymore because I learned in my first term I can get away with whatever I want to.
All right, before we go, I have to ask you about the New York City mayoral primary race. Andrew Cuomo has officially conceded the Democratic primary, and progressive Zohran Mamdani looks poised to win. We're not going to have the full final results until next week, but you're a former Republican, now running as a Democrat, and here we are in New York City. Very left progressive could be the nominee here.
And a former independent. I am not surprised whatsoever by this result.
Tell us why.
Steph, we are in the midst of a generational change environment. We're seeing that in the special elections. We're going into the 6th year of a presidency, but it is fueled by a generational affordability crisis in which voters are holding incumbents accountable, and they want change. And the fascinating thing here, some would say, oh, Jolly, he might be a centrist Dem. I'm not at all worried about Mamdani winning as a super progressive in the city.
Explain this to me. I honestly, I thought this was going to be bad news for you.
This is a Democratic Party that is offering change in different parts of the country to attack the affordability crisis where voters are holding incumbents responsible. In Florida, that's a supermajority Republican legislature and a Republican governor. And Florida voters want change. It might be a socialist Democrat in the city here because they want change. But here's the fascinating thing. This is a unified Democratic Party that's big enough for David Jolly and Mamdani and Andy Beshear and others because it knows the opportunity to apply democratic values in this moment of change is what actually allows us to win and to change policy. What we all agree on, Mamdani, Jolly, Beshear, Booker, everyone else, the economy should work for everybody, the government should serve its people, and everyone should be welcomed, celebrated, and lifted up regardless of where you were born, who you love, who you worship, or the color of your skin. This is a big enough Democratic Party to take that message into next November.
All right, then.